So this is from the preface to the book, and it's called Myrna's Story. And you're going to hear some stories very much like this, I think, today. I would stay on the phone. That was my lifeline. I came out as gay in 1945, the year that the war ended, Myrna Curlin told me from her home high in the Hollywood Hills of California. I was dating a softball player that I met at the gay bar. I met her at Mona's, or else it was the Paper Pony. My first night in a gay bar was freedom. I had a gay male friend, and he took me there. Myrna was in the gay bars for 8 years. She showed me her treasure from the 40s, a gold softball on a necklace chain from her first lover, inscribed with the initials from the professional softball league to which women belonged while the men were in the war. We went to the bar all the time. My entire social life was there. There was no other place. However, the night that she first went to the bar, something else happened. Her father died that night. And she blamed herself, even though she knew that was irrational. She couldn't get over it. Also, she told me that I'm Jewish, and we lost so many people in the Holocaust, I felt it was my duty to have children. There was no other way to have children in the 1950s without getting married to a man. I married someone I disliked. That's what I felt I deserved, because I was gay and I felt so guilty. She married a psychiatrist, someone to whom she would never be able to tell her secret. Her husband's practice was very involved in actively trying to change the sexuality, sexual deviancy of his clients, as would be almost any psychiatrist practice at the time. If her sexual past and preference had been known to him, in all likelihood, she would have lost her children. So I know some of my students who are here, and they always like, what do you mean they could take away your kids? What do you mean I've even had some of my students go, what do you mean the police didn't like you? Well, what do you mean the police would beat you up? So it's important to preserve our stories because luckily our youth are living in a different world than the world that we fought for them to have. But it is important that we remember what that world was like. The brief story of Myrna came as I was packing up my things, and although we had been speaking for about 3 hours, which was around the average time of my interviews, as my informants here can testify to, sometimes longer than that, this was in response to my final question, is there any last thing you want to say about the bars, what they meant to you? I meant when she actually went to the bars in the 1940s, not knowing there was another story. She told me a story about when she did not actually go to the bars, but when she made sure the bars were still there when she was married. Myrna, well, I had insomnia. I used to phone up all the gay bars just to hear them answer the phone, just to hear the noise. Oh, yes. Me. So you would call and just be on the phone? Myrna, no, I would just hear the noise and the laughter in the background. I just wanted to be there. Me, it helped you just to know it was out there? Pause. That's a really special story. Myrna, yeah. Oh, God. So I wanted to read that little bit. We have several lesbian bartenders, bar workers here today, and some amazing women in the audience who I will introduce later, who ran bars that are not on the panel, and I've just had the privilege of meeting today. But that story, Myrna was married. She was in the gay bars from 1945 to 1953. She was married from 1953 to 1968 when no-fault divorce came into California. And during those years, she had a list of numbers from the gay bars that she went to. And so several times during the week, she would wake up and she would call those numbers. And she would call the first number, and she would just wait till they hang up on the other end. And then she would call the next number. And then she would call the next number. And I said to her, "What did that give you?" And she said, "That was my lifeline. That was my freedom. I needed to know that there was a place where someone like me could go. I knew I couldn't go there, but I needed to know it was still out there." And I really want to commend the people who worked in the gay bars who are here today, because I don't think that many of you realize the lifeline you were to people just by keeping those spaces open. That was my 80th interview. I interviewed over 100 people. And it wasn't until at that interview that I realized how important the actual physical space was to people, the existence of it. That for people to just know it existed was so important, even if their life situation was such that they couldn't actually enter the bar. So what kept her alive for 17 years in an abusive marriage was the fact that she kept calling and you all were still open.